besides being on Natural Resources, Representative Gosar, I'm also on the Armed Services Committee. So I'm going to ask questions that have to do with both of the committees. In other words, the connection between critical minerals and national security. And that's something I think we should all be aware of. The balloon incident with China shows us that there are countries out there that are not seeking to really help us out. And so, Dr. Moats, that leads to my first question. What country or countries does the U.S. source many of its critical minerals from?
Thank you, gentlemen. Of course, the answer for all metallurgical answers, it depends. So many of the rare earths for the magnets mostly come out of China. Yeah. The nickel and cobalt is mined. Cobalt is mostly mined in Central Africa and then processed in China to make the lithium-ion batteries that we need. There are other elements that come from allied countries. Like aluminum mostly comes from the Aluminum Valley in Quebec. And so that's probably, a okay thing from a geopolitical standpoint. So it's a very broad answer to a question. I'm going to probe a little more on the China connection.
We know that China supplies 26 different minerals, of which the U.S. is over 50% import reliant. That's far more than from any other country. And some of those minerals, the U.S. is 100% reliant on China. So what implications does this have on our national security when a country like China, who is, I won't go into all the threats that they're posing to our national security, but what does our dependence do to our national security?
So one of the critical minerals is tellurium. Tellurium is added with bismuth to make.
Could you speak into the microphone a little better?
Sure. Cool. Tellurium comes from copper refining. China dominates copper refining. So most of the tellurium in the world comes out of China. From a military standpoint, tellurium is mixed with bismuth to make thermoelectric night vision materials. So whoever controls the tellurium, we do produce some tellurium in the United States, but it's exported and then refined and brought back into the United States. But right now, the tellurium that's needed for night vision goggles and for solar panels, over 50% of the grid storage solar panel uses cadmium telluride, and we're heavily dependent on China for that.
Yeah, thank you for focusing on those military applications. There are tremendous economic applications. The ranking member talked about cell phones, things like that, computers. We know that there are chip making, there are tremendous needs there for critical minerals that only come out of China, either mining or refining. How can the U.S. increase its national security, though, by securing new materials higher up in the supply chain? What should we do to make our situation not so precarious?
In the short term, I think we need to look at every mine and every processing plant that's here currently in the United States, and we need to look at where can we get critical minerals that we're already processing. And we're working at that at our university. I personally work with companies looking at evaluating where they can get gallium, which is important for Wi-Fi and all the semiconductor chips that we have. Gallium right now could be, at least a large chunk of it could come out of our 2 zinc plants in Tennessee and North Carolina, specifically the one in Tennessee. Currently, gallium is not recovered. The germanium is shipped to Europe for refining and brought back. So there's just lots of opportunities. Cobalt and nickel could be recovered from the Missouri mines, could be recovered from cobalt. There's a new cobalt mine that's opening up in Idaho. There are companies that are looking at their existing plants right now to determine if they can recover and what innovations. And so I'm a member of the Critical Materials Institute, which is funded by the Department of Energy. So we specifically have a project looking at gallium, germanium, and indium recovery from our zinc plants.
Are some of our environmental regulations too stringent to currently allow the productive use of raw or byproducts for these critical minerals?
I'm not a policy person, so I'm not going to say what is stringent or not stringent. That's for this esteemed body.
We'll say that.
Yeah, you can say that. I will say that the need to require, the needs of the policies have shut down plants. So there's no primary lead smelters in the United States anymore because of the requirements that are put on by the EPA and the local states. The last lead smelter was shut down in Herculaneum, Missouri in 2013. So any raw, we recycle a lot of lead, but any new lead that comes into the country has to be imported, and most of that comes from China.
Thank you very much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.